Live from our 7 Tasmania studios, your nightly news with Kim Miller begins now.
Good evening. A record-keeping error has resulted in a concerning vaccination blunder at a southern Tasmanian doctor's practice. More than 1,000 injections have been compromised over a 20-year period, with the state's health bosses pointing to a lack of temperature control.
A humble community clinic wrapped up in a documenting debacle spanning 2 decades.
Public Health identified in late March that the Dodgers Ferry Medical Clinic lacked documented evidence of vaccine storage in accordance with national guidelines.
An unrelated phone call between a staff member and the health department was the trigger to investigate their vaccination storage process.
But our concern was that over the long term, there was reason to expect that there'd been really quite substantial variations in temperature that could have compromised vaccines.
With questions now raised over their effectiveness between July of 2003 to March of this year.
And we also have evidence that the fridge has been seen to be frozen up.
1,948 people are known to have received at least one injection at the Dodgers Ferry site during that 20-year timeframe.
We strongly suggest anybody who's concerned or worried about this situation, go and see your local GP and you'll get good advice as to whether you need catch-up vaccines or any testing to see what your status might be.
Vaccines that are given as part of the National Immunisation Program are caught up in the oversight. They include routine childhood jabs and some government-funded shots given to pregnant women and teenagers.
I would imagine that patients at that practice would be surprised to hear this news, but I am pleased to see Public Health providing clear information about what people do need to do now.
Letters have been sent out to the individuals believed to be impacted, but due to the length of time, the current contact details may not be correct, with people encouraged to reach out to the Public Health hotline for further advice.
Around about 70% of the people we contacted still lived in the broad area around Dodgers Ferry.
The medical centre is working closely with Public Health. A report has been made to the Australian Health Practitioner Regulation Agency. Grace Evans, 7 Tasmania News.
Well, 38-year-old Campania man accused of running a mother of 4 down with his car has fronted the Supreme Court via video link. James Kenneth Austin has been charged with the alleged murder of 37-year-old Jackie Purton, who was found dead at his rural property in March. It's been confirmed he's now due to face trial after pleading not guilty back in April. The accused remanded in custody with a directions hearing set down for August 14. Meantime, a Claremont man who pleaded guilty to one of Tasmania's largest individual drug busts has also made an appearance in the Supreme Court. Mark Baldwin was arrested at Hobart International Airport in March after drug detection dogs allegedly found more than $5 million worth of cocaine and methamphetamine in his checked luggage. The prosecution says a statement of facts for a plea should be finalised in the next few days. The 32-year-old has been remanded in custody and will front court again later this month. Less than 2 weeks out from closing its doors to mental health patients, the St Helens private hospital in Hobart CBD has hit the market. It's expected to come with a multi-million-dollar price tag. Knight Frank listing the site for sale, encompassing almost an entire block and a number of heritage-listed buildings. There has been public outcry over the medical facility in recent weeks, with serious concerns raised around its impending closure. A plan for greater transparency measures between lobbyists and Tasmania's public officials has been put forward by the Integrity Commission. The name of the lobbyist, when or how the meeting took place and the topic discussed would be published on their website.
It's important that for us to have full transparency and accountability and public confidence in decision making, that we know what the reasons for these meetings were.
Ours is a government that's committed to transparency and integrity, and we'll look at the matters as is appropriate.
Other reforms include a 12-month cooling off period for lobbyists meeting elected officials they advised during election campaigns. They would also have to declare any donations made above the current threshold. Submissions about the plan can be made on the Commission's website. Flights in and out of Launceston Airport were disrupted this morning, with thick fog also blanketing the city. Visibility was reduced to just 100 metres, causing the cancellation of one inbound Jetstar flight from Melbourne. Passengers on 4 other flights faced delays of up to 3 hours. The fog lingered around parts of the north for most of the morning, only starting to lift at lunchtime. Those impacted most by Tasmania's education system, the students themselves, have been giving feedback on what they're learning through a special program. More than 80 students are working with the Children's Commissioner to shed light on where improvements can be made. Having a say in decisions affecting them and a curriculum linking with the real world are common themes being heard.
Everyone having an equal say in the classroom, everyone's ideas being accepted.
It's made me a lot more aware, and I'm very grateful that I have this opportunity.
It's every child's right to have a say in the decisions that are being made about them every day, but it's often difficult for them to realise that right unless we as adults help them.
Their feedback is being presented in an animation ahead of a meeting with education's decision makers in December. Meanwhile, local primary school students are being taught how to protect the people they love in an emergency. Their training is part of a fire safety program officials say is just as relevant as the day it was first rolled out around 20 years ago.
Embedding fire safety skills in the state's next generation.
You call to a door and see if it's okay to go. If the handle's hot, you don't go, but if it's cold, you do go.
More than 20,000 prep to grade 6 students engage in the school fire education program each year. Authorities teaching the little learners about prevention and protection.
Call out, fire, fire, get out your phone and 000.
Young child had the school education program delivered in their school, and a week later the parent left Tupperware on the stove, and there was some black smoke, and the child was coughing down the hallway saying fire, fire, fire.
Students taking the life-saving lessons home to their families.
I'm going to teach them what shouldn't be close that could make a fire.
The program has been running for at least 2 decades, and for good reason.
The TFS respond to about 350 house fires a year, and it's important that we make sure that people know what to do when there is a fire.
The winter, the colder months, people are using heaters more regularly, they're using their electric blankets, they're using all types of electrical appliances, even candles.
Adults now being reminded to clean out their wood heaters and keep flammable materials away from heat sources to keep the Tasmanian community safe. Brianna Boylan, 7 Tasmania News.
Football Tasmania is looking for a new boss after CEO Mark Baldwin announced his resignation. Appointed in 2018, he helped secure A-League games in Tasmania, along with $50 million in government funding for facility upgrades. He says the time has come after a challenging period in his personal life.
I love working in football. It's the best sport in the world, in my opinion, and it's been difficult to arrive at this decision, but I believe it's the right one.
Matt's given it everything, which we appreciate, but there's always a time to move on and do new challenges.
Mr Baldwin will officially finish up in September. Launceston is preparing for a catastrophic flood well before it's likely to ever happen. A major flood exercise saw those who would respond to such a disaster come together to flesh out the best ways of being prepared. Launceston's levees held up in the 2016 floods, but experts want the city to be ready for something bigger.
It's that large, very rare but large event that will overtop the flood levies. So many different disaster events you've had since 2013, over 180 events that have occurred across the country. So all those events led to learnings that we're relaying into the conversation today.
There have been more than 40 significant floods in Launceston since record keeping began. A vocal group with a twist is warming up ahead of performing at Dark Mofo. All-female electric drone choir NYX will play at the Odeon Theatre tomorrow night. They'll also perform a specialised piece at a yoga event on Saturday at Mac 2. The combination of noise, music and technology aimed at challenging our perceptions of quiet.
You're going to hear a lot more of the spectrum of the voice, sometimes sounds that people would kind of associate with being quite sharp or quite intensive.
We'll be tuning our own bodies as an instrument through the sounds that these girls are going to make and find ourselves through awareness.
Tickets for tomorrow's concert are available on the festival's website. And State Labor is promising an additional $1 million at the Rural Medical Workforce Centre to help upskill nurse practitioners if it gets elected. It's part of its plan to support regional communities and to meet the demand of an ageing population.
The Launceston Tornadoes run without Keely Froling begins Saturday night. Now lacking height, the Tawns have adjusted for the weeks they'll be without Froling, who's playing for the Opals in the Asia Cup.
We're pretty much all the same size without Frols, so you know, we have a defensive plan that has worked, you know, pretty well, and we've fine-tuned that over the last week.
The Tawns will play in Ballarat on Saturday night before a bleary-eyed drive to Kilsyth early the following morning. The Hobart Chargers are preparing for a crucial road trip against Waverley and Diamond Valley. After 3 straight losses, the women's coach is hoping to have a full squad to choose from. In the men's, it's tight between all 3 sides. The Eagles, Falcons and Chargers sit 7th, 8th and 9th on the ladder. Phoenix Roby will miss the rest of the season after securing a scholarship in Taiwan. And Venky Joyce will be out of the Northwest Thunder's road trip with an injured ankle. The Thunder needs to win against Ballarat and Kilsyth to keep in touch with the final 8. A group of female Tasmanian sailors have wind in their sails after a successful long weekend at an all-female national championship in Melbourne. Winning their division, the team is looking to expand their horizons with some of the country's biggest races on their radar.
Feeling buoyant after a long weekend they'll never forget. Orla, Tess, Makira, Matilda and Jodie all have a reason to smile after becoming the latest Tasmanians to be crowned national champions.
We kind of went in with no expectations, just wanting to have a really good time over the weekend. And then, yeah, to come out with a win is incredible. Feeling pretty happy, I think we all are. Bit exhausted though.
They were victorious in the S80 category at the Australian Women's Keelboat Regatta. The win more incredible for the fact not all crew members knew each other, with the boat also different.
I just emailed the organisers and said, can you chuck me on a boat please? And they put me in touch with these lovely ladies.
Did training on Thursday and Friday, and it was blowing a gale. We got a gale force warning.
Managing to gel quickly over 3 gruelling days of racing, their skills were put to the test against world and Olympic champions.
Every single start we absolutely nailed it and were first off the line with heaps of speed.
Came out strong with a couple of wins and then we really had to fight to hang on to it. There were some really strong teams.
Since beginning 30 years ago, the all-female championship has given women a platform to make their mark.
To be able to race with about 200 other women in a race run by women is incredible.
Their focus now turning to the upcoming season. Returning to their boat Plausible Alibi, they will continue sailing together, aiming to defend their title. Some of the country's great races also on their wish list.
Maybe this team in one of the bigger, maybe offshore races like the Sydney to Hobart or the Melbourne to Hobart.
John Hunt, 7 Tasmania News.
Ariane Titmus is roaring towards the Paris Olympics. Titmus qualified for next month's World Championships in Japan with an easy win in the 400 freestyle at the trials in Melbourne last night.
The last 2 months I feel like I've put in a lot of good work, similar to what I did prior to the Olympics.
Good evening. Devonport 15, Hobart, Launceston and Burnie all 14 today. The state's top was 17 in St Helens, 15 for Friendly Beaches, the Islands, Wynyard, Lowhead and Grove all 14, Ooza Maria Island 13, 11 was the top for Strawn and Lyweenie didn't quite reach double digits today with just 7 degrees. The satellite shows areas of low and high level cloud, thicker in the west covering Tasmania. Mid-level cloud continues across the state, Victoria and southwestern WA. A mid-level cloud band sits over the ocean to the west of Tasmania. The rest of the country is relatively cloud-free. Now there is a high over central Australia, extending a ridge over most of the country. A cold front moves near the southern coastline of WA and a decaying cold front moves over the state. West to northwesterly winds 15 to 25 knots, reaching up to 30 knots about the Bass Strait. West and south swells westerly 2 to 3 metres. A strong wind warning has been issued for the majority of the state tomorrow. Hobart and New Norfolk 15, partly cloudy in Cygnet, 14's the top there. Showers easing in Launceston and Devonport, Campbelltown 14. Burnie easing showers 14, also 14 for Strawn, showers easing in Smithton. St Helens a shower or two, 15's the top, mostly sunny skies in Swansea and 15 for Fingal. Friday, showers about the north and west, possible thunderstorms about the west coast. Saturday, showers about elevated parts of the north, extending to the rest of the north and the west during the day. Thunderstorms about the west, otherwise mostly fine. Sunday, showers about the north and west, extending statewide in the evening. Possible thunderstorms and small hail about the west. Snow also falling to 800 metres late in the west. Taking a look at our capital cities tomorrow, Perth, showers 19, Brisbane sunny, Adelaide and possible showers, 17's the top, a shower or two for Melbourne. And Hobart, partly cloudy, 11 degrees. Launceston, also partly cloudy, 10. Devonport, current showers and 9 degrees. Kim, that's all from me in weather tonight, and we look forward to seeing you again tomorrow.
Okay, see you then.